J.D. Vance roundly received high marks for his debate performance, and rightfully so. He exhibited poise. He generally offered cogent, rational answers. He dwarfed Field Marshal Walz on policy knowledge. And, importantly, Vance did a better job of presenting Trump as a pragmatic problem solver than Trump himself did during his debate. There was one aspect of Vance's performance that was troubling: his agreement with his oafish Bolshevik of an opponent on so many issues.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look.
And we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree. We need to do better on this. The question is just, how do we actually do it?
And this idea that we should just live with it. And here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that.
Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of ideas. Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with.
So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that.
And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. And I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay. Christ have mercy.
My criticism is not of Vance's amiable, polite, and gentlemanly demeanor, or even his repeated concession that Walz is well-intended, though the latter was unnecessarily effusive and aided Walz in illegitimately positioning himself as a non-threatening, knuckleheaded sitcom dad, despite the fact he is in fact a ghoulish fabulist who sanctions both withholding medical treatment to babies who survive abortions and allowing kids who do make it out of the womb to mutilate themselves. Rather, my overriding concern is how often Vance started from the same policy premise as Walz. Vance said, "I agree with my opponent," 10 times. And it wasn't like Walz confined his remarks to observing that water is wet and the sun sets in the west. For example, Vance's criticism of the backdoor Green New Deal wasn't that it was inflationary cronyism, but only that the taxpayer-funded solar panel manufacturing should be done in the U.S. and not China. On paid family leave, Vance did not suggest this was a private employer-employee matter. He agreed with Walz that paid family leave should be mandated and funded by the federal government. On childcare, Vance did not suggest dramatically reducing taxes as well as government subsidies to grow families' disposable income while reducing the cost of care. He agreed instead with Walz that it should be further subsidized by the federal government, and a Trump-Vance administration would use revenues derived from taxing imports to finance those increased subsidies. On the backdoor takeover of healthcare called Obamacare, don't expect Vance to be pushing for a marketplace replacement after congratulating Trump for salvaging it. I recognize now is not the time to have an internal fight about the Republican Party's philosophy on the role of government. Just consider this me putting a marker down for discussion at a later date, because that debate is in the offing regardless of the outcome on November 5th. Is government a force for good or a necessary evil to be strictly limited? That's the big question. Based on the entitlements, mandates, tax credits, and other industrial policy manipulations for which Vance has expressed support during his short time in the Senate, I suspect he is in the camp that sees government as a force for good, forever in partnership with valued individuals and organizations. And that is the approach that has America $35 trillion in debt with another $100 trillion in unfunded mandates. Perhaps this is not the case. Maybe out of political expediency alone, Vance chose to appeal to those who thoughtlessly feel their way through life by being conciliatory with his paternalistic opponent to signal that he too will ensure obligation-free government provisions for them. That is the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is Vance and Walz really do agree that much, because to agree with Tim Walz in principle is to eliminate any limiting principle on the size, scope, and cost of government. I'm Dan Proft with the Counterculture Commentary. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And please leave a comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear your thoughts.